Welcome to today's live stream. Today we're going to be going over assisted lab number 4. We're going to perform a credentialed vulnerability scan using OpenVAS, and we're going to analyze the results of that scan. I'm going to go through some different steps and some techniques when doing vulnerability scanning, and we're going to have a good time. So thanks for joining. Hope you watch the video, and if you are interested in getting your Security Plus, check the links in the description. We have some courses available for you too. But let's go ahead and get started here. So our first step here is to log into our Kali box, and then we're going to open up OpenVAS. So we'll go ahead and log in. And remember, if you forget your passwords or any of your credentials, they're over here on the right side. And this is an older version of Kali. We're still logging in with root. Newer versions have the username as Kali, password is Kali. But just like any of these resources, the password is going to be the same. That PA $WORD. Okay, so now we're going to open a terminal. And we're going to do OpenVAS -start. No space. Make sure not to put a space in there. Okay, great. Now we're going to wait for this to start here. It should open up our Firefox browser once it begins. It's going to connect to this IP address. If it doesn't do that, we can go ahead and open that on our own. So if you do get this where it hangs up, that's fine. It happens a lot. Just go ahead and open up Firefox and navigate to that website yourself. So just type in the IP 127.0.0.1:9392. It's going to ask us it's going to say we have a security risk there. We're going to hit advanced and accept the risk and continue. And then we get the Greenbone Security Assistant login page. So if you got here, you're doing great. Okay. Our username's admin. Our password is that same password that we use for all the resources in our lab environment. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a chat or contact me at info@cyberkrafttraining.com if you need any help with this. There's a lot of places in these labs where you can have a little bit of trouble. It's perfectly fine to reach out and ask for some help. Okay, so now here's the dashboard here, the Greenbone dashboard. Now this is going to be similar to a lot of vulnerability scanning utilities. The OpenVAS scanner is a little more pared down. It's not as pretty, but it does still show you a good overview of what these tools look like. So you're going to have a dashboard. You can customize this dashboard if you like. You can download these different charts here. You can change how the appearance of this works, by clicking this. So you can drag and drop these little icons here. You can drag and drop your CVEs by creation time. Whatever you want to see when you log in, depending on your role within your company. I'll give you an example of my experience. I used to be an enterprise POAM manager within United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. So I had to look at POAMs, or I had to manage POAMs and look at vulnerabilities that affected a number of different systems there. So my dashboard I customized to show me the top vulnerabilities that were affecting my systems, the systems that I was managing there, and I had those listed on my dashboard by CVE number. So the top CVEs I was tracking to help remediate those vulnerabilities, I wanted to see if there are any changes to those, if we discover new instances of those CVEs, anything related to those. So I can You can sort this by specific CVEs. You can sort this by severity. Say you're a system security officer, you can have for your system vulnerabilities by severity. And that could be maybe the first thing you want to see whenever you log onto your system. So we can just pop this up here to the top, and then we could change, its order. Let's say that's front and center. Okay, and then we could hit OK. And bam, we've changed our dashboard. We've customized it a little bit to how we want. But we have a couple different menus up here. We have dashboard. Now we'll just get it's basically your home button. You have scans. Okay, you have different options there. Each of these is going to have a drop down, assets, security info, MVTs, CVEs, CPEs, common vulnerabilities and exposures. These are created by MITRE. NVTs, same type of deal. All of these are different tracking systems for vulnerabilities. So we can look at specific CVEs, for example. And we have CVEs, those a specific number here. The number is going to be the year the CVE was created, and then a tracking number assigned to that year. So we can see these different CVEs and what their details are. Same thing with NVTs. Okay. Here we have MVTs. For this one, we have a Google Chrome security update or a potential vulnerability for Google Chrome. And we can sort by this NVT. So if we're specifically interested in this NVT and how it affects our system, we can look at that and we can scan that within our system. Same thing with CPEs, all these different definitions, different ways of classifying vulnerabilities. We don't have to get into these super much for the lab, but they're helpful to know. For the exam, you will need to know what CVEs are. Not so much NVTs, CPEs, OVAL definitions, and all of those, but CVEs for sure. CERT, that's a good. CERT is managed by CISA. I can go to CERT. Just show you. Oh. So we have US CERT, Computer Emergency Response Team, and they manage their own vulnerability database. They have different vulnerabilities that they track, primarily for the US government. So they have their own tracking system, and you can find that here in OpenVAS as well, CERT Bund Advisories. Anyway, lots of different stuff you can do with VAS. Configuration, extras, admin, and help. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be configuring a credential scan. So we're going to be doing our configuration menu, and we're going to go down to credentials. Now, before we can do a credentialed scan, we need to add the credentials into our OpenVAS. A credentialed scan is going to allow our vulnerability scanner to scan a specific system or a group of systems using a set of security credentials, like a username and password. And you'll often have these accounts created as like service accounts that would only be used by the vulnerability scanning tools, the security tools to log into those systems to scan them. So you'd create a specific set of credentials just for those service accounts to use. Okay, so from here, we're going to go and use this blue star icon, okay? And let's see. Blue star icon left to open new credential web dialog right here. Whenever you see this star in OpenVAS, that's going to allow you to create something new. Okay, so we're going to create a new credential, and then we're going to type in the name very carefully. Now this section is focused on the Linux device. So with Linux in these labs, you can't use any green buttons to cheat and type the text for you. You have to type it in manually. Try and make sure to be very careful about how you type it in, because there are scripts that are going to help us check if we've done this correctly. Allow insecure use. We're going to say yes. Username. We're going to enter 515 support /administrator. Make sure you put in the right slash there. And then password is going to be the same password that we always use. Okay, we've created that credential there, 515 support. And if you need help, you can always look at the screenshots here to see what the interface looks at. All right, now what is the difference between a credentialed and a non-credentialed scan here? We're going to choose two here. Credential scans provide less detail than non-credential scans. Non-credential scans use root or administrator privileges. Credential scans use dedicated accounts with audit or read-only privileges. Credential scans are performed only by authorized penetration testers. Non-credential scans are performed only by unauthorized hackers. And non-credential scans provide less detail than credential scans. Anybody want to try and answer this from our YouTube or our Facebook? Or anybody? Okay. Non-credential scans provide less detail than credentialed scans. Okay. Good. What else? All right, this one. Great. Yeah, and as I mentioned, we use that service account with audit or read-only privileges. So in this one, it's not really easy to see that because we're using 515 support/administrator, but you would have a service account for the OpenVAS to use. Okay, so those two are correct. Now we're going to configure a new target, and we're going to use this new credential that we created. We're going to configure target. We're going to add a target, so use that blue star. All right, we're going to name this 515 support. No space. We're going to do a manual target 10.1.0.1-10. No, .10-1.0.2. Okay, so we're going to be targeting these two hosts here, 10.1.0.1 and 10.1.0.2. And then we're going to use credentials. We're going to go ahead and select that from SMB. And we're going to select the credentials that we've already created. Now, you can create credentials here if we want. I recommend creating the credentials first and then adding them to your target afterwards. This is a much better method. Let's make sure everything's correct. Manual. IPs are right. 515 support. Excellent. Okay. So we have our target. Now we're going to create a schedule. So we're going to create a schedule for this scan to run using on these targets. We're going to create a new schedule. Remember that blue star. And we're going to do 515 support -daily. Okay, we're going to set that current time, which the time is going to be offset. This is universal time, so just leave the time as is. It's going to default to the current time. We're going to take our period of 1 day and our duration of 1 hour. Hit create. Now we have our new schedule. Now we're going to go back to scans, go to tasks, X out of the wizard. You could look, if you're new to OpenVAS, look through the wizard if you like. We're going to do a new task. Remember, you could just click it. You don't have to use the drop down. It's going to default to new task. And then we're going to type in our information here again. We'll call this 515 support full and fast daily. Where our scan target's going to be 515 support. Pick our schedule and it's 515 support daily. Our scan configuration is going to be full and fast. Full and fast. So everything should be correct. You should only need to configure 2 drop-down boxes. Scan target should populate automatically since it's our only box. Now you're going to have to scroll down in your window to hit create. A lot of students have trouble with the sizing of the window. I do recommend using a good a large monitor if you can, like an external monitor. It can be very helpful with these labs. Otherwise, you're going to constantly have to readjust the sizing of the lab window. It's still possible, it's just a little annoying sometimes. So if you do have problems with that, if you don't see the create button, try scrolling down. All right, hit create. Okay. Now we have our task here. Okay. Task is scheduled. We can view the details. We can export the task, clone the task, etc., edit the task, all of that. Okay. Now let's refresh our page here. All right, excellent. Now what we want to do is we want to run this manually. There's a couple different ways we can do this. We can go to, first off, we can go to our scans here, our tasks. Then we click on 515 support full and fast daily. We click on the blue link. You can see the details here about the task. We could double check ourselves. At the top, we're going to have some more options than just the quick bar. We're going to have a green arrow here where we can start the task. And we're going to go ahead and do that now. Now this is going to run. First, it's going to go as requested. If you have lots of tasks that are going on at once, so you have multiple people within your organization requesting tasks, your task might not run right away because you don't want to run two tasks simultaneously on the same resource. So it's going to show as scheduled or requested. But in actuality, since this is the only task, it's going to be running now since we told it to start running. So we do have one task that's running. Okay. Now we're going to be able to see by going to scans and dashboard our results so far, and it's currently running, so it's going to take some time here. It's going to take a few minutes to actually report all of the entities. Now sometimes some students have trouble with this part because sometimes this takes a while, depending on how many people are using the lab environment and how well it's running that day. That's okay. You know, if you do have problems with it, that's fine. That's totally normal. Just give it some time. You're probably gonna have to extend your lab time to let it fully develop. So we're just gonna keep refreshing this and see how it goes. Okay, and you can see how the severity class is going up. We had results by severity classes 4 just a moment ago. Now it's at 11. Okay. And we could set it to refresh every 30 seconds, every 60 seconds. Let's set refresh every 30 seconds. It's going to constantly refresh itself. And you can see that it's supposed to be running to look like this eventually. Now, as we're waiting for that scan, let's talk about some implication or some applications of doing it. So you might want to have, as part of your vulnerability management within your organization, a scan result or a scan like this running once a day. I mean, this is a pretty common application where you set the scan to run daily, look for new vulnerabilities that have cropped up in your system, anything that might be, you classify that by severity. Maybe once a week you have a meeting with your CISO or your manager to go over system-specific vulnerabilities and explain the vulnerabilities by severity level. Then you would either choose some method of remediation. You create a remediation strategy around those results, and you'd say, okay, well, we have 3 high vulnerabilities that cropped up in the last week. we're planning on applying these patches. This high vulnerability is due to a misconfiguration within Google Chrome. And we're going to apply a Google Chrome patch in our next patch management cycle. That could be one of your strategies there. Or perhaps it's vulnerability due to a new type of malware that's been introduced. You can have a strategy revolving around identifying where that malware is and eliminating it from your system. So the vulnerability scans are going to be tools that teach or tell you and give you visibility into your system and show you what's going on. Now, say you find a vulnerability. Okay, let's go to the dashboard. Let's look at some of our severity levels here. So say we have an NVT by severity class. Okay. We can search here by the different types of vulnerabilities, the different types of NVTs. And if you want, you can go to NIST NVT, nvd.nist.gov, and you can find their vulnerability database. Okay. Now these are going to be, this database is going to be linked. You're going to have a CVE number applied to each of these NVTs as well. And a lot of these translate to one another. So if you want to look by NVT number, you can translate that to a CVE number. And the severity level is classified by CVSS, okay, which is a calculation that provides a score for the different vulnerabilities. Common Vulnerability Scoring System. That's what CVSS stands for. Now, the CVSS will take different aspects of vulnerability, like what types of systems it infects, how easy it is for hackers to exploit that vulnerability, what type of system it's going to use, or what type of technology is used in the vulnerability. If it's like a JavaScript vulnerability, it's very widespread. It'd probably have a higher severity than maybe just a Google Chrome extension. That's like a little more rare to see in the wild. So that's how you see this CVSS. And the CVSS is what we see with these vulnerabilities, where we see severity. So if you see severity, that's a CVSS calculation. So these are examples of some of these vulnerabilities. You're going to see these are listed by NVT, and a lot of times you'll see a corresponding CVE. So let's see. FTP client traversal vulnerability. Let's take a look at that in a new tab here. This affects the 3D FTP client 9.0 build 2. This allows for directory traversal, okay, where you can navigate through different directories, which will allow for some sort of lateral movement by hackers if they infected your system. And the flaw exists, we get some insight here. Flaw exists due to an error in handling of certain created file names. Does not properly sanitize file names containing directory traversal sequences that are received from an FTP server. So the CVSS for this one is rather high. I think it's 9.3 here. And we don't have to get into the vectors or how this is calculated, but you can get information from that as well. So I hope that helps give some background on how this is used. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our dashboard and take a look at how our scan's doing there. Okay, great. Now we have some meaningful results here with our scan. We've been letting it run for a while, and we have some different results here that we can look at. Okay. Now, to get a more detailed report here, we're going to go to Scans and then Reports. And we're going to see our one report for our scan that we just ran. 515 support full and fast daily. Let's go ahead and click that. You might get this error sometimes if the scan's running currently. So just refresh the page. It should refresh that. Now we have quite a few results here, quite a few high severity. We have some severity 10s with Windows multiple vulnerabilities. Most likely these are due to Windows being out of date without patches. But let's take a look. We can sort these by different metrics here. And it shows you at the top that the scan's only 50% complete. Okay, so we can look by host. Remember we scanned two hosts, 10.1.0.1 and 10.1.0.2, which are going to be our domain controller 1 and our managed server 1. We can sort these by date. We can sort these by many different values here. Okay, we can even download these if we like. We can export these or do all of these different tools. These can be used to add these to different sections within OpenVAS. All right. Now let's observe some of the CVEs. Windows multiple vulnerabilities. Let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at Microsoft Malware Protection Engine on Windows Defender, remote code vulnerabilities, scripting engine memory corruption vulnerability. Take a look at those. Now remember, we're scanning Windows devices. We're going to see a lot of Windows codes. All right, this one says that the host is missing a critical security update. Okay, perfect. And it gives us a reference code that we can look at on Microsoft. So if we were to reference that code on Microsoft, it's probably corresponding to some type of patch, 131, just based on how that looks. And here we go. I just did a quick Google search for that. Looks like that was an update from September 11th, 2018. So we're missing that update. So you can do, and you can find information about that here. Usually, like the vulnerability insights here. Here's some CVE numbers, some details. You click on these links and find more information. You click on this. See if this does connect. Yeah, it's going to connect within OpenVAS, but you can search for these CVEs even on the CVE database, which is maintained by MITRE. So if you wanted to really investigate this, we can open up the CVE database. Okay, search CVE list. Then we could search, what was that? Okay. CVE 2018 8448, I believe, right? 8449. 8449. Bam. Or we could just do 8449 2018. There we go. CVE 2018 8449. Click on this. This is the same CVEs that we see here, but now I've pulled it up from the source from MITRE. Security feature bypass exists within device guard, incorrectly validates an untrusted file. Okay, so but this would be fixed by a patch that we're missing. This gives us specifics on what that does. And that patch, see how you see all these CVEs? The patch would fix basically these vulnerabilities. These vulnerabilities exist because we failed to apply that patch to the system. All right. Same, let's see. Remote malware protection engine on Windows Defender. This is probably missing an update to Windows Defender, which would be included in a Microsoft security patch. Yep, and it says run Windows Update to update the malware protection engine to the latest version available. Pretty simple ones, but they're still very high severity because they're easily exploited. Remember, if there's a missing patch, hackers are going to know what that's about. They're going to immediately pick up on that. Missing patches are one of the most commonly exploited vulnerabilities. All right, successful exploitation will allow an attacker to execute arbitrary code in the context of the current user. All right, what does this tell us? This is scripting engine memory corruption vulnerability within Microsoft. Yeah, so this is, again, missing a security update. A lot of these are going to be that. Some of these are going to be a little different. Here's a Java security update that's missing. Here's a vulnerable cipher suite used within probably an older version of TLS or SSL. Well, now we use TLS. Here's a TLS certificate that's been expired. So you can get some information about the nature of these vulnerabilities. Now let's go to the top here. And well, I hope that was helpful to figure out what these vulnerabilities are. Reports hosts. Okay, we want to display this information in a different manner. So we can do that by this green arrow, and we can do that by hosts. You can also do this by ports, all these by operating systems. So we're going to go to reports hosts. We're going to see our two hosts, 10.1.0.1 and 10.1.0.2. 1.0.1 is DC1 and 0.2 is MS1. So you can also look at these by ports. We can look at the vulnerabilities by the ports that are associated with them. Okay. These TCP ports, 443 HTTPS, lots of different commonly used ports there. And we can go back to results too. Or we could just clear summary and download to go back to the regular results. Okay. Let's see. Now we can select how we want to export this. Okay, we can do anonymous XML. And we're going to select HTML here. So we're going to export this as an HTML report. We're going to click this green arrow and we're going to export that. We're going to save that. Save that file. We'll save it to our downloads file. Then we're going to score that, see that we've actually put that file in the right location, and we have successfully. You're just downloading it. It's going to store itself in Firefox's download folder. That's all. So in that way, we can open that full report later. You can save reports, historic reports. You can create a record of reports. So you can save this on a daily basis. And you can configure OpenVAS to do this automatically for you. All right, so let's do some of these comprehensive questions. Now, which of the following answers best describes a process during this activity? Used a network mapper and protocol analyzer, packet sniffer to understand network topology. Use Windows Defender to scan a standalone workstation. Create and schedule a credential vulnerability scan to save the results, or register discovered vulnerabilities with the CVE database. We did the third one. And then for the last question, which of the following answers best describes a CVE? An open source vulnerability scan utility, a reference for publicly known vulnerabilities, a specific ransomware attack, or Microsoft's online repository of known vulnerabilities. We know that MITRE, it's a government-funded corporation, creates and maintains the CVE list. They don't create the CVEs themselves. There's a lot of contributing organizations that contribute CVE lists. It's like organizations like Oracle and Microsoft would create CVEs for their different products that they have. Anything that they discover, or major security firms like FireEye would create CVEs that they find in the wild. So we know that this is a reference for publicly known vulnerabilities. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and submit that to a grade, but we got everything right. Did a fantastic job. And I appreciate you watching the video today. And, follow along. If you do have any questions, leave a comment, use the chat, or email me, info@cyberkrafttraining.com. It's in the description. And if you have any more questions about vulnerability scanning, please let me know. Thanks so much. And if you're interested in earning your Security Plus, then we have links in the description showing that we have Security Plus courses. We have self-paced and live training classes available. So if you want to earn your Security Plus, try one of our courses, or at least take a look in the description. Remember, each course comes with our Cyberkraft guarantee. If you're not happy, you'll get your money back. But thanks so much for watching.